Hello and welcome to the Chat with Chaps YouTube channel for another episode of the Opposition View, where today we'll be previewing this weekend's home game at home to Preston. Now, before I start and begin, I have to address the elephant in the room. Obviously, you're probably thinking, who the hell is this ugly mug? Where is Chris? Chris is currently on holiday. He's currently soaking up the sun with his missus on holiday. So you've got to deal with my ugly face, unfortunately. But if you don't know who I am, you can check me out on TikTok. My @ is just below my fat head. And without further ado, let's introduce our guest, our Preston fan, Ollie from the Butter Pie podcast. Ollie, thanks for joining us.
Hi, George. Thanks for having me on, mate.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So without further ado, we'll run into the preview. So Preston, Ollie, talk to me. Currently 21st in the league. How would you describe or go through your recent form, and what are your hopes for this campaign?
Yeah, so obviously started off the season, and then obviously Ryan Lowe left, so we're a manager down after the first game, so it was a bit of a shock. But now obviously a couple of games in to Paul Heckingbottom's reign. Although I think we've had quite a hard start to the season, we picked up some good points, especially away at Borough, and then obviously at home against Blackburn. So the momentum's slowly getting there, but you can feel like a lot more. It's like a breath of fresh air at Preston at the moment, with obviously Heckingbottom in. Optimistic for this season. I think it's more of a kind of a rebuild season. So it's kind of just trying to remain within the league, which I expect us to do so. I'd expect us to, be lowish mid-table. But then obviously Paul Heckingbottom, as coming in, can then put his stamp on the team through transfer window. So, yeah, I think it's just a bit of I wouldn't say it's a throwaway season, but it's kind of just a rebuilding season, obviously, for the new manager. So as long as we're happy and safe, and we're able to back Paul Heckingbottom in the transfer windows coming up, that's all I can hope for at the moment. But yeah, the form's picking up, so I think we'll be all right.
Yeah. Say the Ryan Lowe departure was a bizarre one. I'm not sure if you've got any insight into that and if you saw it coming, etc. But it was only after the first game, wasn't it, where Ryan
Yes.
Lowe and Paul Heckingbottom's come in, and what was sort of the reasoning behind it? What was your thoughts on Ryan Lowe's departure?
A lot of Ryan Lowe's tenure was up and down. Ryan Lowe noticeably was, very, very loud in the media, and so he wanted to put his point across and say that, he plays a brand of football. And going into like the last 6 games of the season, we didn't score a single goal. We ended up losing 6 on the bounce. So for me, I thought, if we are going to sack him, it has to be in summer to allow a full summer to rebuild. The club decided to back him. They decided to give him another go. And then obviously going into the first game of the season, it was more of the same old. Obviously, we got beat by Sheffield United 2-0, and I felt, it's not going to last very long. I'd have expected it to probably have lasted a bit longer than it would have. I don't think any team expects the manager to leave after one game to the season, so it was going to happen anyway for me. It's just happened a lot quicker than anyone expected, because Ryan Lowe came out and said, he can't really get this squad back on track, and not be able to put it to where he wants them. Taking into account last season as well, that would have been 7 losses in a row, no goals scored, and I think the fan and manager relationship was pretty much dead and buried at that point. So it was a shock that he left. It's just another shock that he left so quickly, and why couldn't it have been done in the summer?
Yeah. And since Paul Heckingbottom's come in, if I'm looking at your recent results, done very well in the EFL Cup, beat Fulham on penalties, and I believe you've drawn Arsenal at home. Am I right in saying?
Yeah, drew Arsenal at home. Obviously, we played him in 2017, where Aidan McGeady was the best player on the pitch. So it's going to be a cracking game. Paul Heckingbottom's naturally always up for the cup, which is nice to see. He took Sheffield United to, I think it was either the quarters or semi-finals in the FA Cup. Well, it must have been the semi-finals because he went to Wembley. So, you know, with a team like Preston, especially you stay mid-table, a good cup run's, you know, the perfect kind of pick-me-up you need as a supporter. You know, just giving yourself about, and then obviously the financial sum that it comes with as well. So I remember last year Peter Ridsdale saying in an interview or so that, you know, we played Tottenham at home, and through the gate receipts and the TV money, we were able to actually sign 2 new players. Just because of that, it allowed us to balance the books a bit more. So, you know, getting further on in the cup, you know, drawing someone like Arsenal, especially after the 16-15 penalty win, you know, can't really complain at all. You know, extra funds for the club. I don't expect us to beat Arsenal, but anything can happen. It's 9 minutes of football, but it's a nice pick me up.
Yeah, and of course, if that game then gets chosen for broadcast on Sky Sports, you get more money, and just having Arsenal down at Deepdale, of course, will obviously be a big occasion. But focusing back on the league, of course, obviously you mentioned the fact that you think the season's a bit of a write-off, and we've only just leaving September. So does that mean, from a Millwall point of view, what should we necessarily expect from a Preston team then?
I think it's more of a reset for North End. So obviously they're all wanting to prove themselves to Paul Heckingbottom to be able to stay within the rebuild that he's wanting to do. So, you know, you've got the players there who are wanting to put on a performance to prove that, you know, they're going to want to be here and amongst it for when we do make a push, hopefully, for the playoffs in coming years. I'd expect a team that's playing with obviously defensive solidity that we've seen recently. We look much more defensively solid and a lot more attacking freedom as well. So I'd expect it to be quite an end-to-end game, to be fair, which is exciting. Obviously, our results recently may show that, you know, 0-0 and 1-1. But, you know, watching the game, there's plenty of chances that come both ways. So I'd be expecting a thrilling game, to be fair. No one saying this, it'll probably be another 0-0. But, yeah, I'd expect North End to come out there, trying to give something to prove. The striker, Osmaic, who's been charged by the FA for biting Owen Beck, he's actually eligible for the game. So we'll see if he see if he gets a game, because he's been deserving a bit of game time. I'm just not too sure how long.
We'll touch on that. We'll touch on that one now. So I was going to ask about the whole biting scenario from your 0-0 draw in the Lancashire derby against Blackburn. Am I right in saying he's got a hearing from the FA on Monday? Is it Monday?
Yeah, he's got to respond. So they've charged him, but he has till Monday to respond, which makes him eligible for the game, right, obviously on Saturday at the Den. So Paul Heckingbottom's come out in an interview and said that he's travelling with a squad. So obviously that means that he's got a chance of playing. But that being said, I think this may be the last game that he plays for a very long time for North End. Yeah. So it could be a point to prove for Milton Osmaic, you know, with his last game for a bit. So we'll see if he gets on the pitch.
Yeah, it could be. Well, imagine if he scores, it could be a little bit controversial, I'd imagine. But moving on, yeah. Who is one player where we should watch? Who's your sort of ones to watch? Who's the one which will cause us problems on Saturday?
Well, I would have actually said the person in in decent form would have been Sam Greenwood. Obviously, the red card's now come in, so he's not going to be playing. One man you've always got to keep an eye on is number 10, Mads Rockjaer. When he's on it, I believe he's one of the best attacking midfielders in the league. So if you're able to obviously nullify him in the centre, then you're doing well. Obviously, we made the signing of Josh Bowler as well. He seems a very direct player, alike when we had Liam Miller last season. So especially in the attacking department of Mads Rockjaer and Josh Bowler, I think them two are, you know, potentially one that Millwall will try to double up to nullify. So yeah, keep an eye out for number 10 and number 40, Josh Bowler is. So yeah, they're the two main threats to North End.
Yeah, Josh Bowler is a player which I've liked. I think he done really well at Blackpool a few years ago, and then he got a move to, was it Forest, and he went to go play for Olympiacos for a bit, didn't he? And then he came back and was at Cardiff last season, but very tricky with his short socks, with his low socks. Very tricky player. Am I right in saying Will Keane, is he still at the club?
Yeah, so Will Keane picked up a bit of an injury recently. I'm not too sure. He's been training this week as well. I can't see him. Obviously, he was our top scorer last season. I just can't see him getting a start. Obviously, after the injury threat that he's had, there was talks and rumours of him leaving, but obviously he signed a new contract in the summer. So, Will Keane, he's a championship-made striker. You know, he scores a couple of goals and he does all right. But I mean, for me personally, he's not the sole number 9 that you want him to play. You know. He's more of a second striker that you want to play off, and in Heckingbottom's formation, he's kind of wanted to play with 2 players in behind a 1. So I just feel like the formation doesn't necessarily work the best for Will Keane. But we'll see. You know, I'll say this: he'll probably start on Saturday now and prove me all wrong. But yeah, I just can't see Will Keane starting the game. Maybe he comes on a bit later on just to try and affect the game, and if we change formation to a 2 up top. But we'll have to see. He's a decent enough striker. He's just not, you know, probably necessarily the number 1 striker you'd want to be able to be pushing you up to the top end of the table.
Yeah. And then in terms of an area of weakness, where would you say that's coming from? Has Preston's defensive record been good this season, or not so much? Or
we've been screaming out for a centre-back for absolutely ages, a pacey centre-back. Notably, we play a 3 at the back, namely Andrew Hughes, Liam Lindsay and John Story. They're the mainstead. I'd fully expect them to be starting this weekend. And Andrew Hughes, although he did okay against Blackburn, he's been notably poor for the past year and a half. So I'd expect, if, you know, for the time that obviously Millwall will have on the ball, I'd expect him to try and force something down the left-hand side of the pitch, trying to get in behind Hughes or Lindsay, because, you know, they're not the quickest centre-halves in the world. You know, if you play a ball in behind, they look like they're running in treacle to try and get back from the attacker. So I'd expect Millwall to probably play a couple of players on the final line of our defence and try and exploit, obviously, our left-hand side, which will be, you know, your right winger or striker on the right-hand side.
Yeah. Okay, well, quickly, we'll hold it there. If anyone watching this video right now has not subscribed, make sure you click that subscribe button. Subscribe on YouTube is completely free. Obviously, I'm doing this off the back of Chris's back, but he's doing really well with the channel. He's got a few interviews lined up, and the channel's growing rapidly. So make sure you are subscribing. So that's a quick little plug done. Now, head-to-head. So Millwall's record against Preston in recent years has actually been very good. We are currently unbeaten in our last 5 against you. However, Preston's sort of main enemy when it comes to playing us, however, ZM Fleming had a very good goal-scoring record, has, of course, now left the club. What is your sort of point of view on Millwall? I'm sure you're delighted that Fleming's left and he's gone to Burnley.
Yeah, over the moon. Over the moon that ZM Fleming's not playing. If there was one player this season that I wasn't looking forward to, it was Ian Fleming. He naturally at least scores 2 goals against us easily. I don't know why. I think we just allowed him a lot of space, and obviously he was a clinical player. I am so happy that we don't have to come up against him when playing against Millwall. Noticeably, because obviously Millwall and i.e. mainly Zion Fleming are our bogey team. You know, we just absolutely fall apart when we come up against Millwall. Hopefully, I think the last good performance was, it must have been 4 or 5 years ago when we ended up scoring 3 in the first half. But, you know, hopefully that's replicated this time. But, you know, I'm over the moon. We don't have to play Zion Fleming. Just got to wait until Burnley rock up at Deepdale, and then that'll be a showing that I don't have to, that I'll be, you know, looking away from, because I don't know what his record is against Preston, but he must have more goals than games.
Well,
surely.
he scored not last season, the season before that. So just looking, we won 4-2 away at Deepdale, and ZM Fleming scored a hat-trick there. That was on his first game. Then he scored another in the reverse fixture in a 2-0 win for us. And then there were two 1-1 draws last season. And I think he scored in both of them. I think he scored a really good goal up at the first game up at Deepdale was on Sky Sports, I believe. And Zian Fleming scored a really good goal in the half-12 kickoff, and then another draw later last season, which I believe he scored. So his goal-scoring record was actually ridiculous. But it's a shame he's not with us anymore. He's obviously left to your arch rivals, Burnley. But is there anyone else who you're sort of looking out for this Saturday? Obviously, Millwall haven't particularly started well. 1 win in 6 so far, but our performances, genuinely speaking, have been quite good. So I like to think that unfortunately there might be a thumping around the corner at some point. I'm not too sure. And with our record being very good against Preston, who's your sort of who's the one you're looking out for? Who's the one you're interested to have a look at?
I'm quite shocked that Macaulay Langstaff hasn't really been given a good go at Millwall actually recently. Obviously, I mentioned before, having a striker to play on the last line. I think Macaulay Langstaff's perfect for this kind of game. On the last line of defence and being able to get in behind them. I think he's probably the perfect striker you'd want for this kind of game. I know it's probably not the name that's striking out to obviously Millwall fans when they're talking about the best player that has been this season, but naturally for a game, you needing someone like Macaulay Langstaff, who's a natural goal scorer in League Two, not really been given his chance, and obviously if he is given his chance and is able to play on the back line of defenders, for no offence nemesis, I'd expect him to probably score. So. I'm not looking forward to seeing Langstaff if he starts. We were after Coburn as well. Obviously, he did end up choosing to Millwall, but obviously he's been injured as well. So, Langstaff for me. I think the game suited perfectly for him, and I hope that Harris doesn't decide to give him a shot because I think the game's perfect for him. Yeah,
so say Macaulay Langstaff more than likely will start the game. Obviously, so far this season he's not been playing. He played the odd few cup games, and then by choice, really, or by force, sorry, rather than choice, Macaulay Langstaff had to come in the team because Coburn was injured. Tom Bradshaw's been injured, and he played against QPR last week and did really well. Got an assist, was voted man of the match by the fans. So hopefully, and also Neil Harris had some really good things to say about him, where previously not really so much. So. Hopefully Langstaff will be in from the beginning. We've also got Romain Esse as well, who's a young kid. Obviously, loads of Millwall fans will know about him. He's sort of our star boy coming through the ranks with lots of Premier League teams looking at him. So if that's probably one I'd say you should look out for. But we'll move on to the final part of the show, which is our score predictions. Now, obviously, like I said, Millwall have got a good record against Preston in recent years, unbeaten in our last 5 years. You've just touched on there at the start of this episode where you spoke about how this is not a throwaway season, but it's sort of a season where Paul Heckingbottom will get a lot of leniency no matter what. So what is your sort of score prediction, would you say?
To be honest, I'm expecting quite a few goals. Naturally, in the last 2 games, it's been 1-1 and 0-0. I'm expecting 3 goals at least either way. I think there's going to be a lot of freedom allowed to play. I mean, it's a big game for us. We're needing to pick up some more points to try and push our way out of the relegation battle. I know it's a battle. We're only 6 games in, but you want to try and push yourself away from that relegation zone as quickly as possible. For me. Personally, I hope obviously the good form and the positivity carries on. I know we're naturally not good at the Den. Obviously under new management, a bit fresh ideas potentially. I'm going to hopefully go for a 2-1 North End win.
Okay. I'll quickly leave a little score prediction in there as well. I'm going to go over 2-1 Millwall win. I think we are due a win at some point with the performances, which have been very good recently. And I'm hoping that Macaulay Langstaff, previously mentioned, of course, can hopefully get off the mark for this season. And he can kick on, and maybe Ivanovic to get a goal off the bench as well. Obviously, our brand new signing, which we signed for a record fee. Ollie, thank you very much. Before we go, do you just want to plug your sort of podcast which you do, or your Twitter, or?
Yeah, of course. So at the Butterpie Pod on Twitter, or the Butterpie Podcast on all good reputable streaming sites. Obviously, if North End do end up losing, we're going to be giving a reaction. So if you want a bit of saltiness, just pop on over and give us a listen.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And obviously, guys, girls, don't forget to subscribe. It is, of course, free. Chris is doing very well with the channel. It's growing. Few interviews coming up, and of course, more content than you can shake your stick at. Ollie, thank you very much. Thank you for watching, and we will speak to you later.